I could taste the bitterness of the wine before it even touched my lips, not from the drink, from the smirk on my father's face. He held his glass high, the amber light catching the deep creases on his forehead. My siblings flanked him on either side, like vultures dressed for the holiday. "Big announcement," he said, his voice dripping with the false warmth of a man who had already decided your fate. "We're selling the family business." I felt the air tighten. Forks froze halfway to mouths. He let the silence stretch, savoring it like a fine scotch. Then he added, "And you, Daniel, you're getting nothing." My sister's lips twitched. My brother couldn't hide his satisfaction. They thought this was their moment, the one where the prodigal son finally got punished. I leaned back, steady, unreadable. "Who's the buyer?" I asked. He grinned. "Cardinal Logistics." I smiled, slow, controlled. "Dad," I said, my voice soft, but slicing through the room, "I am Cardinal Logistics." The laughter died in their throats. My sister's fork slipped, clinking against her plate. My father's smile faltered just enough for me to see the first hairline crack in his confidence. And that's when I decided to give them the whole story. I wasn't supposed to be the one who took over the business. That was clear from the beginning. When I was 19, I suggested expanding our small freight company into interstate shipping. My father laughed in my face, called me the dreamer like it was a disease. My siblings stayed silent, their silence dripping with agreement. So I left, moved out with a few $1,000s and the knowledge I'd learned from years of unpaid labor at his side. I swore I'd never come back, but life has a way of folding in on itself. The first crack came 5 years later. A friend in the industry called me, said our company's contracts were bleeding out to competitors. Dad was too stubborn to adapt, too arrogant to see the storm coming. The second crack came when I learned why. My sister had convinced him I was trying to steal clients behind his back. She told him I was building a rival business, when in truth, I was working as a lowly operations manager just to survive. That's when I stopped feeling hurt and started thinking strategically. I didn't start Cardinal Logistics with revenge in mind. At first, it was survival. But the thing about building something from the ground up is that it makes you sharper. I learned where to cut costs, how to charm clients, how to read contracts like a criminal lawyer. Within 3 years, Cardinal had taken 3 of my father's largest contracts. Not under my name, of course. I used a holding company, clean paperwork, and a CEO who owed me more than his life. My family never connected the dots. By the time we moved into regional shipping, my father's company was already leaning on bank loans just to make payroll. I knew then that all I had to do was wait. The final piece came last spring. I'd been quietly buying up debt, the kind my father's accountant thought was manageable. Small amounts, spread across different lenders, all funneled to me through separate shell entities. By December, I owned 68% of the company's outstanding debt, which meant that when he defaulted, and I knew he would, I'd control exactly who could buy the company out of bankruptcy. I didn't even have to force it. His pride did the work for me. So there we were, Christmas dinner, my father thinking he was about to gut me in front of the family. "I am Cardinal Logistics," I said, and let the silence work for me. He tried to laugh. "Don't be ridiculous." I slid the envelope across the table, crisp legal papers with my name buried in the corporate structure, like a dagger hidden in silk. "I own the holding company that owns Cardinal," I said, "and as of last week, I'm also your primary creditor." His face drained. He knew exactly what that meant. You set this up?" he stammered. "No," I said, leaning in. "You set this up. I just built the safety net for when you fell." My brother opened his mouth, but I cut him off. "And since you defaulted on the December payment, I exercised the buyout clause. The sale you're bragging about? It went through yesterday. Which means, I let the pause hang, as of midnight, the family business is mine. The room was silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock. My father's eyes darted to my siblings. He was looking for an ally, a lifeline. But they were frozen because they realized the inheritance they'd been salivating over just evaporated. "You won't get away with this," he whispered. I smiled. "I already have." And then I dropped the real bomb. "I'm not keeping it." I slid a second envelope onto the table. "I've sold the company's assets to a competitor, one you've always hated. Every truck, every route, every client, gone. By Monday morning, the name your father built will be just that, a name, and I've made sure no one in this family can use it again." My sister's jaw clenched, my brother's hands curled into fists. My father looked like a man who'd been hollowed out from the inside. "I didn't do this for money," I said, standing. "I did it so none of you could ever use what he built to destroy someone else." I left them there, a perfect still life of greed, shock, and loss, while the snow fell quietly outside. Driving away, I thought about the first time I'd walked out of that house years ago. I had nothing then. No money, no allies, just the bitter taste of being underestimated. Now, the bitterness was gone. In its place was something cleaner. Not joy, not even pride, just peace. Because some debts aren't paid with money. They're paid in silence, at a table where the people who wrote you off finally understand you were writing the ending all along.